All right, so I know we're talking a lot about the Texas Rangers so far today. Get in your vote now. You have less than 15 minutes to make your final votes for the Texas Rangers today to make sure that they get as many votes possible so that we can see an all-star team where 4 of the 5 guys in the infield will be Texas Rangers, and the other one will either be a Tampa Bay guy or a Toronto guy at first base. So that would be amazing to see if you had second base, shortstop, third base, and catcher all starting for the Texas Rangers. And, you'd hope Adolis Garcia, but he is down by a lot. It would take a little bit of a miracle vote by Texas Ranger fans to get Adolis into the top 3, but don't give up. Try your best for Adolis, but make sure at least we get in 4 of the 5.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go down on the farm. Evan Carter was dealing with an injury. If you remember, we talked about how his May had gone downhill from his April. His April was amazing, arguably the best outfield prospect in all of baseball in the month of April was Evan Carter. Now we get to May, and he really struggles in May. His OPS, I believe, was under 700, where it was over 1 in the month of May. So they put him on the injured list, and they send him back to Arizona to work on his injury and then to get him back into a few games, and he's down there and he plays in 3 games. How about this? He's been back for the Texas Rangers AA team, Frisco. In his 6 games, he has 11 hits. In those 6 games, he has, let's see here, a double, a triple, 2 homers. He has 7 RBIs in those 6 games. He has 4 walks in those 6 games. So he has just risen. His numbers have gone back. He's a .299 hitter again. He was starting to drop like below 800 for OPS for the year. He was dropping into, I believe, like .279, I think was his batting average when he got sent, not down because he got hurt, but when they took him off the roster and wanted to give him kind of 3 weeks, I think, to rehab a wrist and then to get him back into a groove. He has come back to Frisco and is tearing it up. So Evan Carter is doing everything we saw in the month of April now here late in the month of June.
And not just like what he's doing at the plate. The dude's also an elite outfielder.
Right, he's a center fielder, but he'll probably –
because of Leote.
Yeah, now I wonder this. I don't know this.
This is interesting.
Let's just say, and I hope this doesn't happen, but in the month of August or September, if there's an injury to one of your outfielders, I wonder. Jankowski's a good backup guy. Robbie Grossman's a good backup guy. But I'm just wondering if he is kind of OPS, let's say around 900, batting average around 300, showing all the ability to draw walks. He does strike out quite a bit, but he does draw quite a bit of walks. I'm just wondering, in August and September, will we see him? He's not on the 40-man roster. You have to make a 40-man spot for him. He will be on the 40-man roster next year in spring training. I believe he has to be protected in the offseason if he's not called up to the major leagues. But Evan Carter, back to what he was doing. That is great.
So Card's back up now then?
I don't know. I think I do think they dipped a little bit. Honestly, in the month of June here, his Cards have dipped a little bit. Now, I go to the Seattle Mariners because they're hosting the All-Star game. I was looking at their team last night because they're 3 games under 500, and I believe the Rangers are 18 games over 500. When you just start looking at it mathematically, and I know that it becomes, well, if they keep playing this way and they keep playing that way, no chance. They're 10.5 back of the Rangers. They're 4.5 back of the Angels and the Astros, and they're under 500 halfway through the season. They've already lost 41 games, so they will not be above 500 when they get to the halfway mark here. So I look at the Mariners and I go, I wonder what they're thinking right now, because last year, great year, make the playoffs, get swept in the playoffs. The year before, they win 90 games and don't make the playoffs, and here they are this year looking like they're going to be a 500 or worse team. A lot of time left. I want to make sure I keep saying that. But if they don't go on in the month of July, if they don't win 15 to 20 games, what do they do?
Yeah.
They have to look at it realistically and go, we're not going to make the playoffs this year. Like the Rangers are way better than we thought. The Astros are always good. The Angels are better than we thought. They got to overcome at least one of those teams, if not 2 of those teams, to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the American League East, 3 of those teams are probably going to make the playoffs. Tampa's definitely going to make the playoffs. Baltimore looks like they're a strong playoff team, and probably the Yankees. And I still wouldn't count out Toronto. But when you start looking at this, you look at the Rangers, and you're like, man, it's tough when you're 18 games over halfway through a season. It's tough to start saying, well, they're going to lose 20 of their next 30 games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they're probably not.
Right. They'll probably win one.
If they play 500 the rest of the way, the Mariners have to play 20 games over 500 the rest of the way to have a chance to catch the Rangers. Probably not likely. These are things that general managers, especially at the break, have conversations about. They just start playing the odds.
Yeah.
What are the odds of us buying? What are the odds of us selling? Because if I sell now, am I cutting this team short that they will win 15 out of the next 20 games? If I buy, am I giving this team way too much credit that they're actually going to go on some sort of 750 winning percentage where they're going to win 15 of the next 20 games and put ourselves back into wild card contention? So just looking at the Mariners, they're not going to do anything before the All-Star break. The last thing you'd want to do, can you imagine if the Rangers made the playoffs this year, they were struggling next year, and I don't think, what's the year we host the All-Star game?
24.
So next year?
Yeah, I believe it's 24.
Is it next year that we host the All-Star game? Okay, so next year, so let's say the Rangers right now are 3 games under 500 next year, 10.5 games back. How would you, the All-Star game's here, there's no way you start selling players before the All-Star game, right? You don't want your base, your fan base, going into the All-Star game, they're disappointed in Seattle. They're probably like, I can't believe we were looking so good, and Julio Rodriguez and all these things. So you're not going to sell at the All-Star break. The last thing you want is, as everybody's in your town, for you to sell. But after the All-Star break, I just wonder what Seattle's thinking with some of their relief pitchers. They were a great relief team last year. They're not as good this year. But I just wonder, will there be relievers to get? What's their thinking on Luis Castillo? He just signed a 5-year, over $100 million contract. How long do they want to keep him? Are they going to say, hey, Robbie Ray's probably out next year because of Tommy John surgery, just like Jacob deGrom? So I just wonder, Seattle in your division, as those still look like tough games to me when Seattle's on the schedule, I'm like, hey, they're not a bad team. They're pretty good. They're playing under what they should be playing. But I just wonder if Seattle goes, hey, we gotta punt on this season and try to prepare for next year.
Yeah, it is a very difficult place to be in, of making the decision of, if we just stay, are we doing ourselves a disservice by not moving on from some of these guys?